Okay. Putting the magic. This is recording sound. All right. So this is concepts and ideas about goalkeeping, and to help your rec keepers. I have refed enough rec games that I know that there are many rec teams that need help in this area. There's a lot of stuff you're like, I don't know why that goalkeeper is doing that. And so this is coming, with my lens, which is, I coached a little bit of 5v5. I coached 2 years in the rec side. I coached 2 years in the comp 7v7 side, and this is my first year. I'm assistant coach this year for 9v9 team, so the 2013 boys white team, the second team. So this is sort of what I've taken away and what we try to do with keepers, both in 7v7 and 9v9. Maybe some of this doesn't fit your team, but this is how I think about it. And so I invite you to come along on the journey here. All right. So the things that I'm going to cover first is shot stopping. So that, when you talk about a keeper, you're usually talking about two attributes: stopping shots and positioning, or I'm sorry, stopping shots and distribution. Really, positioning is something that we'll talk about that, you don't really have to talk about at the pro level, but we'll talk about that. We'll also talk a little bit about aggression, because that's a really important point for this level of play. When you're talking about shot stopping, the first thing is, is your goalkeeper ready? So when we're talking about it's the set position or the ready position, and you can see this player here this is a classic ready position. He's ready to go forward. He's ready to go right. He's ready to go left. He's ready to jump. That's what you want. It's, the knees are bent. He's slightly stooped over. He can get down if he needs to. That's the ready position. So all your goalkeepers, anytime the ball is starting to approach, should be in this position. So that's your starting point. And then they're going to move towards the path of the ball. And then they have to decide whether they're going to catch or parry. So it's totally legit to just knock the ball away. It's not like every goalkeeper has to keep everything. I mean, when I was playing keeper, which I did mostly in indoor, but I've done outdoor as well, sometimes I'm not feeling real confident about catching the ball that's hit hard. I'm just going to hit it. I'm going to hit it away, and I want to hit it away from goal. If you hit it straight at the opponent, well, they tend to get rebounds and score. And the other thing is, when they move to intercept a shot, you want them to move their whole body, move their body behind the shot. And you'll see a lot of keepers. My keeper on 2013 boys white, he will dive when he could have just taken a step and stopped the ball with his body. So instead of moving his body and getting down, he will sort of slow motion do that. So if you have time, we want to move our feet over. We want to get our whole body in front of the shot. So those are the fundamentals of shot stopping. I don't think that's mostly what keepers have problems with that I've seen. We just had, I think it was Amy join. Is that right? Assuming I actually did that right. Great. We're just getting started, Amy. So this is recorded as well. So shot stopping, I don't think, is really the main problem that keepers have at rec. It's kind of all the other stuff. So that's really what I'm going to spend most of my time talking about, is the other stuff. So when we're talking about the other stuff, we're talking about positioning. Oftentimes, you will see a rec player absolutely glued to their line, as if there's something magical about that and they need to be there. There's something like, I'm a goalkeeper, this is the goal line. It must be called that for a reason, right? I'm going to stay on the goal line. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The only time you're really going to be on the goal line is when you have a penalty. That's the only time I really want to see you on the goal line. And every other time you should be off, not way out, but never on the goal line. So a few steps in front of the goal line. So you can see this is a 7v7 game played in Italy. I think this is one of these teams is Paris Saint-Germain's youth team. And you can see the keeper here, they're off their line. And they're three feet or so in front of their line. That's a really standard position for a goalkeeper to be in. Never, never, never on the line. Sometimes I've even seen rec keepers, like, they'll go and they'll collect the ball and then they'll go back and stand on their line, which is I've seen a goalkeeper also try to roll the ball out from there, lose the ball backward into her own net, and that's a goal. So we're never, never on the line. And then you can see this is the same game. He's way off his line now. He's 8 feet off his line, and that is part of it. You're gonna be off your line, sometimes even charging at that ball as it's coming in, and it all has to do about angles. And here is my son to say goodnight. All right. Good night, buddy. Good night. All right. It's all about narrowing the angles. And so when we're talking about, well, what are the angles? Take the ball and draw a line from one post to the other post. And that's the cone of possibility. And if you are on your line, there's more space to the side that is open. And you always want your goalkeeper to be in between. You want them to be in the middle, sort of left to right, of that triangle. So if it's a more acute angle, they're going to be stepping over, but I want them in the middle of this left to right as they're looking at it, right? And that is going to it's going to block as much of the goal as possible, right? And so that's what you want. They're moving over to be in the middle of that ball, in between the poles, in the middle of that triangle. And if you have a ball that's coming in and it's a 1v1 with the keeper, I mean, if you come out, how much of the goal is actually available for the striker to strike? If you come out, that angle, those little slivers that they have to shoot through, get smaller and smaller and smaller until they disappear. At a 7v7 and really at 9v9, there aren't going to be a lot of players that can chip your goalkeeper. Where they just dink it over the top of them and it goes into goal. So if your keeper comes out, the space that the attacker has to shoot narrows and narrows and narrows until it's gone. When your keeper's on top of them, there is no more space. And that's what you want. So when we talk about narrowing the angle, that's really what we're talking about. So one of the things about being a keeper is your keeper is the only player that really sees the whole field. They have a beautiful view of the rest of the field. And so one of the things that I try to do is I try to encourage my keeper to help organize the defense. Instead of me saying, push up, push up, push up, or hey, watch the far post. I want the keeper to try to give a little bit of that responsibility to your keeper, to have them start to be the general of the defense. So that pays dividends in the long run when your keeper's out there organizing people and they're seeing things that you didn't even see. That's what you really want. We want to move as much autonomy to the players as possible. Otherwise, it's called doing joysticking, where you're actually moving the player around. I do a lot of that. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's hard to get away from that. But turn over some of that coaching to your keeper. Have them organize the defense on a corner kick. Say, I need you to say, is this person marked? Instead of me yelling, is that person marked? You take responsibility for that. So that's one of those things that, when it works, it can be a real positive change for your team. So let's talk about distribution. So when I'm talking about distribution, I'm really talking about when you're restarting play, when the keeper gets that ball, whether it's from a save or whether they're just picking up a loose ball in the box, or whether they're restarting. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about just distribution. What is the goalkeeper doing from that point? And it's really important to understand that is a team skill. It's not just the goalkeeper. It's a team skill, but it's led by your goalkeeper. And successful distribution really has to do with the shape of your team. So if you're in the wrong shape, and we can go into some examples here, it's very hard for your goalkeeper to be successful in leading that charge and getting you out of the defensive half. And teams that get bottled up in their own defensive third or defensive half, that can be a really rough game, right? Like we've had some of those games where the team doesn't really get out of their own defensive third, and the goalkeeper just keeps on turning it over to the other team, turning it over to the other team, turning it over to the other team. And that has a lot to do with what you're doing in the back and what the shape of your team is. Good distribution from your goalkeeper is about them making, we call it footballing decisions. Am I giving this to where there are a bunch of defenders, or am I putting this in space? The title of the newsletter is Into Space. It's a key concept. Are we putting things into pressure? Are we putting things into space? And we want to put them into space. And so the goalkeeper is throwing the ball into a crowded bunch of players because that's what they think they're supposed to do. We want them to start thinking about, what are my other options? It's not a set play. It's a set of considerations. Another thing with distribution is it really is a ticking clock. You'll see it's one of the moments of transition. So the attacking team has been attacking, and you get the ball, and there's that moment of transition from attacking to from defending to attacking. Does anyone know what the 4 moments of play are? This is one of those like things that they talk about in the grassroots coaching sessions. And I don't think we're going to be high on interactivity here today, maybe, but all right. So
no, sorry, no idea.
That's okay. So one is when you're attacking, right? And one is when you're defending. The other 2 moments of the game are the transition moments from you're attacking to now you're defending, and you're defending to now you're attacking. Those are when people talk about the 4 moments of play, that's it. Those are the 4 moments of play. And you'll see that a lot of teams turn off on those transitions. And if you are able to exploit those moments, if your team is turned off and the other team is turned, if your team is turned on and the other team's turned off, you can exploit that. And so there has to be a little bit of a sense of urgency, right? If you're able to exploit that moment, you'll get out of your defensive half. You'll create opportunities to score. So it's kind of critical, because if your team turns off, and I see this in a lot of games where you've been defending, the goalkeeper collects the ball, and then everyone just kind of stops, and you wait for the defense to set up, right? And this is a very, very common thing. And the truth is, there's no need to wait for the other team to set up. If they're not set up, you have an advantage, but only if your team knows what to do. And so the goalkeeper is the one who has to start the play, but the rest of your team has to be turned on to know what to do, know where to go, know what their job is, what their role is. And so when we talk about distribution, can you go long and can you go wide? And a principle that we have at the club is, can you find the highest player first? Can you hit the striker? Well, the answer is, at 7v7, you're almost never going to be able to hit the striker. You're almost never going to be able to get that ball to your highest player. And in 9v9, it's still pretty much a gamble whether you're going to be able to do that or not. So, and that's where people get in trouble, is that keeper is still trying to hit their highest player, and they're still just trying to get it as far down the field as possible. Usually your own team highly overestimates how far your keeper can get it, and the other team underestimates how far you can get it. And it ends up just falling to the attackers right in front of your goal, before midfield. That is a very, very, very common thing to do. So what we want to do is have the keeper think about, is that on? No. Know thyself. I can't get it that far. I'm not going to try that. And then can I go wide? Can I find my my wide midfielders or my wingers? And that only works if, guess what? Your wingers are there. So, so oftentimes you don't see your wingers there. Oftentimes they're 10 or 15 yards inside the field, if they're even paying attention at all. Sometimes they're looking the other way. So you have to help your keeper by understanding what the shape looks like. If I go wide and my keeper knows that I'm there, they can find me with the ball. But if I'm never there, then your keeper has to sort of make it up every single time. And that's hard on a keeper. That's hard to do. So the first option is, can I get it long? The answer is probably not. Second is, can I go wide? Oftentimes in rec, they're not going to defend wide. If you go wide and your keeper is fast and gets the ball to them, you're off and away. You have the whole sideline to attack down. But if your player never gets there, or they are standing next to a defender and your keeper tries to get it to them, that's where you end up, in a bit of trouble. So the go long or go wide really, are your midfielders actually wide, and or are they tightly covered? And then can your keeper make that pass or throw? If the keeper can't get it there, it becomes very, very hard. If it's too slow, then the receiving player is going to be under pressure immediately. So working with the keeper on getting a throw or a roll, it can be a hard roll. You want it really on the ground, right? So that bowling roll is better than a throw oftentimes. So that's a thought. And then there's the idea of playing out of the back. So it can feel a little counterintuitive to say we want to get out of the back, so let's play out of the back. But if the alternative is I'm going to kick it in the middle of the field and the other team's going to get it right in front of my goal and attack me, it might be a good idea. But again, it really does depend on what your defenders are doing. So the defenders oftentimes really do just completely check out of this phase. You see them standing. Sometimes I reffed a competitive boys game on, was that just yesterday? Where as the keeper had the ball, two defenders just stood and talked to each other. They feel like they didn't have any role in helping the goalie get out. What we want to do is we want them back towards the end line, like you see in this example. Oftentimes what they're doing is they're standing high up at the edge of the box. That defeats the whole purpose because the defender can't be in the box. So by moving back towards the end line, the keeper now can get the ball to the defenders, and the defender isn't going to have an attacker on them like within seconds. They're going to have time to make a decision. They're going to have time to handle the ball. So this is about goalkeeping, but this is also about how to build out of the back and what the rest of your team has to do to help your goalkeeper, because it becomes an impossible task for the goalkeeper to get out if players are not where they're supposed to be. And if players are standing at the top of the box, when you have those moments of transition and the keeper is starting play, you can't get out, because as soon as the player gets the ball, they have a defender on them, and they're going to lose the ball at the top of the box, and they're going to get an immediate chance to attack and likely score. I mean, when you have teams that run up at the score, especially in 7v7, this is why. This is what happens. So playing out of the back, shape dependent, etc., etc. So when you move from 7v7 to 9v9, you get to finally drop kick the ball. So that's you get to punt it. And everyone's very excited about that. And there's going to be lots of players at 7v7 that want to do that. And you'll have teams that do it and they don't really understand that that's not, it's actually not allowed in 7v7. You're not allowed to drop kick the ball. Because they're trying to develop the skills that the players need, and drop kicking the ball usually goes to the other team. So, and if you watch an EPL game or any professional game, you're going to see a goalkeeper kick the ball and it's going to go well into the opposition half. I mean, these kicks are impossibly long. I've pulled a hamstring just watching some of those games. But the truth is that even in professional games, they hold on to possession very, very little. So that long kick might do a couple of things, but it's not going to do the thing that you want to do, which is retain possession of the ball. So you can't do this in 77. You can only do it in 99. And it's worth even asking the question, if the ball made it to the striker, is the striker actually capable of handling it, of dealing with a long bouncing ball? Bouncing balls throw a lot of players, and your players are probably going to get thrown by a bouncing ball, and they're not going to handle it well, and it's just going to go to the other team. Most often what happens is the ball never even gets that far. It goes well short. The ball goes right up the center of the pitch, and you're counterattacked immediately. So that's one part about getting out of the back that doesn't really work well. The only time that it really does work is if you're just constantly under pressure and you just need to get it out. You just need a little bit of chance to reset your defense. In that case, boot away. This is a game. This is one of my games recently. This is a 2013 boys white game. And you can see the keeper really, really, really wanted to hit our striker. And you can, the red is an unsuccessful attempt to get out, and the green is a successful attempt to get out. And we tried to find our striker a lot, and it did not work. And we kept doing it. And they counterattacked us, and they counterattacked us, and they counterattacked us. So there are many things to learn from this. One is it is really helpful to go back and look at a game. We get to record some of our games, and so this is me going through a recording and looking at every time we restarted play. And we were fairly good at being quick, but we were not that good at actually finding our striker. It fell to our striker was 1-on-3 and lost the ball, but we did it repeatedly. So doing the same thing and it not working is something that you can look at as a coach. I mean, when I'm in a game and things aren't going well, one of those questions to ask yourself is, where are we losing the ball? And where are we finding space? And you can then make adjustments based on that. But the long ball is false comfort. It doesn't usually work. Another thing that you see a lot at the rec level, and I actually saw this in a 2012 girls game yesterday, was that there was a player who hadn't played a lot of keeper, and when they'd get the ball, they would walk back to the top to the top of their goal box. And there's really no reason to do that. You have the whole box to use, and a lot of rec and even comp goalkeepers don't use the whole thing. And the difference between this pass and this pass is an immediate attack on goal. The left center mid is away here. If you can make that pass, and maybe they can't make that pass from their own goal box, but if they move up another 10 yards, maybe they can put that in space in front of the left center mid, and you're away. So use that whole box. You see a lot of keepers that are really stuck in their box and on their line, and those are both really, really dangerous things. So when we talk about should your keeper come off their line, I have this helpful decision tree. The question is, can they get to the ball before the attacker? And if they can, then yeah, go for it. They run as fast as you can, get there before, even if it's out of your box, even if it's well out of the box, goalkeeper should charge it and boot it. And you see a lot of keepers that stay on their line as there's a 1v1 coming at them from midfield, and really encourage your keepers to go out. If that ball is loose, and a lot of those touches are going to be loose, they're going to be long, run out, get the ball, don't stay on your line. So if they're unsure if they should get it, then the answer is they should probably go get it. And if they absolutely cannot, then maybe they can't, but they should still think about it. So it's really, really key that they get off their line. So always encourage that. Where should they be when the ball is on the other side of the field? They shouldn't be on their goal line. They should be at the top of their box, maybe even a little bit further, because there are going to be some balls that go, they're just booted, and your defensive line may be nowhere near the ball, and the attackers are still a ways away from the ball, but your keeper can get there. And if they can get there, they should. So it's a simple thing as far as that. It's maybe hard to put into practice, but they should always try to go get the ball. And yeah, you have to be aggressive. Keepers are a little bit of a special breed. And you will know the players that really aren't suited to play there. And I would say don't make the kids that aren't going to be comfortable doing it. It's a hard position. When you make a mistake, it ends up in a goal. And there are a few other positions that work like that. So the kids have to be a little bit more resilient to play there, and they have to be okay with making mistakes. And always encourage that. It's also tough physically. You're running, you're getting down on the level of the ball and the level of cleats. It can be a little scary. So when you have a player that is interested and willing to put themselves in that position, then I would encourage that. One of the ways that I encourage that on my team, right now we have a player who's playing, he's played keeper every game, all game. But in previous years, I had players that would play in goal, but they didn't necessarily maybe want to. And so I would give those players like 75% of the game to play. So I'd play them one half at keeper, and then I would play them half of the next half, as opposed to where other players might be playing more like 50% of the game. So I'd reward them with a little bit more playing time. But there are players that are just not suited to it. And, it's okay, I think, to protect those players. I don't think you have to say every player has to play here throughout the season. There's some players where it could ruin their love of the game. And I don't think you have to do that. I don't think you have to put a player who is obviously is already terrified of it and is not going to be good at it and is going to put the rest of the team in a bad position. I think it's okay not to play that player in goal. So you don't feel like you need to. A great goalkeeper, there is something that is, I think, innate or inborn in that shot stopping role. And you'll see those players that they are just capable of stopping shots. But the good ones, the great ones, will understand the positioning. They'll have a sense of urgency about it. And they'll make soccer decisions, and they'll be strong emotionally, mentally and emotionally. So when you find those players, encourage it. So this is the last thing I have, which is one of the things that it's really important, especially in 7v7. I think most 9v9 goalkeepers know this, but it's possible that they don't. But when a goalkeeper makes a save where they collect a loose ball in the box, as soon as they set the ball down, it is a live ball. And I see a lot of rec keepers who gather the ball and then they set it down as if it's a goal kick, and it's not a goal kick. It's a live ball as soon as that keeper sets the ball down, as opposed to when it goes out and then it's a goal kick. And then it's only live after the keeper kicks it or another player kicks it. It's almost always going to be the keeper. But so especially if you're in 7v7, make sure that difference is understood by the keeper, because it can get pretty messy when they set it down and they don't think it's a live ball and the other team comes charging in. It can be a kind of a wild time. And with that, for the three of us that are here, beside myself, do you have any questions or anything else that I might be able to answer with that? And we can look at scenarios if you're curious about things I've talked about here, because I have my tactical board up and we can do it.
Thanks for putting this together, Bjorn. I do have a few questions.
Sure.
Excuse me. One of the biggest challenges that I've had is that a lot of kids say during practice that they want to play goalie, and I want to give people opportunities. And as you mentioned, there are some kids who are well suited for it, either that's that natural shot stopping or aggression. And then there are other kids who, aren't as naturally good at it. And I want people, like when they're 9 years old and not good at something and they want to keep trying at it, like I want to encourage that mentality. But as you say, if they're sort of not as good at it, then goals go in and the team gets down. And so how do you find that balance, and what sorts of words can you use if a player expresses interest in playing goalie, just isn't as well suited for it?
So one of my favorite sayings is, how you get good at something is being bad at it. So, I always, if someone's not good at it, I'm like, look, and they're going to know it, right? They're going to know it if they let in 3 goals in scrimmage. They're going to know it. And you could say, like, look, the first step here is being bad at it. So, like, you shouldn't beat yourself up about that, because that's the norm. No one is just, walks onto the field knowing how to do this stuff. But I would use scrimmages and opportunities in practice to give them an opportunity to do it, but then also help them reflect on, like, is that going well? And how are you going to feel about that in a game if that happens? We do want to encourage kids, and we want to give them opportunities. The other thing is, if you're in a position where you're in a game and you're up by a bunch or down by a bunch, it's a foregone conclusion, and the result of whatever they do isn't really going to matter that much, then you can give them a little bit of time in those scenarios. But practice is the main place that you're going to be able to do that, I would think. So giving them an opportunity to go in the goal and to really experience it, and then you can talk to them about, like, here are the things that I need you to do if you're going to play this in a game, which is, I need to see more aggression. I need to see you handle the ball better. I need to see you position yourself better, or it's going to be bad. And it's going to be rough for you, and I don't think you're going to enjoy it. I can think of a player that I had that he said he wanted to play keeper, and I was like, boy, I don't think he does. And he went in a scrimmage in practice, and he got shelled, and he did not enjoy it. And then I could talk to him later. I'm like, you said you wanted to, but it doesn't seem like you really do, because it doesn't seem like you were having a good time there. And, we can talk about what that player did better and the position that they were probably better suited for. So I do think it's I think it's a hard thing to communicate, to a 9-year-old that, hey, maybe this isn't for you. But then, I don't play every player at center defender either, because, when that goes bad, they don't have a good time. No one has a good time. The kids are on them, and the whole team kind of suffers. So part of it is, figuring out, what roles the kids can play. A 9-year-old should be trying different positions, but it doesn't mean they have to play every position. It doesn't mean that they are going to play striker, right, left, center, and center back and goalkeeper. Having 2 or 3 positions that they play is absolutely fine. And if goalkeeper isn't that, and you have reasons that you can point to, like, what I need to see from you is X, Y, and Z. And by the way, this is what you're doing best, and I would like to have you develop in that better, or develop in that area more. I think that's legitimate. Anything else?
I had a question for you.
Go for it.
So we've been working on the kind of proper distribution two defenders and out wide, that you'll see and that you mentioned.
Are you playing 7v7? Is that what you're playing?
Yeah, we're 7v7. Yeah. And, we were just getting hammered in our last game. And so I'm just kind of wondering, how would you recommend like coaching? Because obviously a lot of that has to do with, our team's position, which we can work on, but also the goalie's decision making about like where to put the ball. And, if it's like, okay, I'm passing it to this defender, it's not working out, like maybe I need to go out wide next time or, try for the striker. I don't know. Is there any, because I mean, I can yell at them and be like, look for Anya, but it's like, then they just kind of are confused and, So kind of coaching, like how to make those decisions, for that age.
Yeah. And oftentimes, and you're on your phone, so I don't know if you see the
I can see it. Yeah, I got it.
So oftentimes when we're talking about 7v7, a real problem is where your center backs are, because they're often too high. They're often like up in this position where they're right by the line, and then the defender, is here. And if the goalkeeper doesn't get that ball quickly to the defender, if it takes 2 seconds to roll there, they have no time, right? They're going to turn, and there's going to be a defender, sometimes two, because oftentimes, usually you have it depends on how well drilled the other team is, but usually they have someone who's at the edge of the build-out line, and they're ready to be what I call my agent of chaos. Wherever that ball goes, they're gonna run there as fast as they can. So one thing is it really is dropping the center backs down low, and there you're also talking about body shape. So they're slightly turned in so that they can see both the attacker who's going to be coming at them and the goalkeeper. Turned this way, only looking at the goalkeeper, and they can't see the other person coming at them, then they're going to turn right into them, and it's going to be a problem. It is a series of decisions, and it can be hard. One of the things that I've seen, and again, this depends on how well drilled the other team is, but if this person starts, if the right center back in this position starts running immediately as the striker's coming in, and they go more sort of out, but also your right mid clears space, oftentimes the defender will run with them, and you'll actually be able to get out that way. So that's on a team that's like really doing like really drilled well in terms of not abandoning their positions. You can use that to your advantage, because they will just follow your right mid as your right center defender can actually just dribble all the way up the field. I mean, I've seen that happen. I saw that happen against us is where I mostly saw that. It does. Yeah. Changing the field though is another way to do it. So, but that's risky, Goalkeeper puts it to your right center back, the defender's coming in, and you go back to the goalkeeper and back to the left back, and you get out the other side. Changing position can work very well. It can be a little dangerous if the passing isn't really there, right? Because then it passes to the goalkeeper, and then the attacker just takes it from the goalkeeper and knocks it in, which is a thing that can happen and will happen sometimes. Another thing that I've seen work is taking the center mid, who's usually up here, right? They're usually at the build-out line, but there's nothing that says that they have to be. The only people that can't be on the other side of the build-out line are the attackers, or the defenders at this point. So by dropping the center mid in here, if you, because your center mid is usually your most capable ball handler, right? So if you're taking them and putting them outside the play, maybe that doesn't serve you well. So if you can bring them into the play, and again, they pick a side, and to be either slightly this side or slightly this side, and they have their body shape so they can see the goalkeeper and they can see the defender. And you can often get that ball to them directly, and then they can bounce it back. And that gives your center backs a little bit more time, because the first move is often towards the person with the ball. So if they can get that and then bounce it back, then you're out that way. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
it's just like, can you use your center mid more as opposed to having them be completely outside the play? And the answer is yeah. Bring them in. You can even bring your right and left wingers in to give them a little bit more space, because oftentimes they're at the build out line. They don't need to be. They can drop in. They can drop into the build out line, so that they can't be marked. So they have a little bit of time. I don't know. Those are that's a lot of opinions and maybe with some wishful thinking mixed in there.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously assumes that we're maintaining our positioning and the thing.
Maintaining positioning is it's hard. It's hard for the comp teams to do it. But if you can get a rec team to do it, you probably are gonna do really well, because most of the other rec teams aren't going to defend that. They're not going to know what to do with it. So, if you can get your shape, then you can start to do things. It's very hard to do the right things when you don't have to, because then you're basically asking the keeper to come up with the ideas on their own every time. And they can't rely on this person will be here, this person will be there. If they can't rely on that, then they have to make decisions every single time. And I think that gets hard. That gets hard on any keeper.
Yeah.
Once the keeper collects the ball, is there a certain maximum number of steps they can take with it? Or
there's not a
or
certain
can they
number
just
of steps. Yeah.
So they can run all the way out to the end of the box every time.
Yeah. The other thing I've seen some rec keepers do is they will run literally to the end, and then they'll stick the ball over the end. And it's not basketball, right? It doesn't matter where your feet are. It matters where the ball is. So if they stand at the penalty box and have the ball outside, that's a handball. So maybe not all the way to the end, maybe a foot before it.
Sounds good.
But yeah, and they're going to telegraph real hard what they're going to do there, right? So when they go, they need to really be committed to it, because they can't get up there and then decide that isn't what they want to do, because then their options are sort of gone. So yeah, they can do it, but if they want to get it to the left wing mid in this case, and they run all the way over there, everyone knows that's what's happening. Right? So maybe they don't, in that case, maybe they run here and give it to them. The ball moves faster than the person does, right? So we want to get that ball moving to them faster than the person does, so that again they have the time to make a decision or to try to do something. If they run all the way there to do that, one usually takes a while, except for at AP, which is because it's so small. But that does telegraph the intention of the goalkeeper really hard. So it doesn't hurt sometimes to go all the way there and then give the ball the other direction, because you're gonna you probably have moved a bunch of defenders over that way. So there are ways you can take advantage of it, but yeah, use the whole box though. I mean, there's no reason not to. See ya. All right. Any other questions? What?
Great, thank you.
What age are you coaching? What group is that?
U9.
U9. Yeah. U9 7v7.
Yeah.
And yeah, U9 can be a lot of fun. There's a lot less moving parts than there are the next in the 9v9 format. I mean, because when you get to 9v9, it starts to look like you get a lot more players on the field, and
Yeah.
and then you really are like, okay, if option 1 isn't there, what does option 2 look like? What does option 3 look like? What does option 4 look like? So it can be a lot more chaotic. But yeah, 7v7, if they can get the shape concepts, you can really do a lot with that. And I really, I harp on that a lot in terms of that's what your keeper needs, because I think it's very, very hard for the keeper to do good things if you don't have shape.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Great. Well, thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.